The Chrysler Museum consists mainly of Walter Chrysler's collection, and he collected it himself with the view of having a world-class museum.
I think it's extraordinary that a single collector delivered everything from an Egyptian sarcophagus to a Jackson Pollock.
It's such an eclectic and diverse collection.
But there is a long history of the Chrysler before Walter's gift in 1971.
Interest in the arts in Norfolk actually begins in the 19th century with the arrival of two women.
Annie Wood and Irene Leach moved to Norfolk just after the Civil War, about 1875, and they started a school for young women. Annie and Irene had gone to Europe from 1885 to 1900 and would send back artworks to this museum, which became the Norfolk Museum of Arts and Sciences.
That was kind of a typical museum in the 1930s for a city to start. It had some science, it had some art.
There was a sort of a dismal swamp gallery with stuffed raccoons and a diorama.
This was a very nice community museum, but
it would be hard to say that it was a world-class collection before Walter came.
For me, one of the most important things to understand about Walter is where he came from.
Walter Chrysler was certainly a man of privilege. He was an heir to the automobile fortune. Also, the family owned the Chrysler Building in New York.
Walter simply couldn't follow in his father's path as a businessman. He had no head for business.
He was especially doted on by his mother, and she took the kids to New York and incessantly toured them through museums.
His older sisters were avid collectors and had started collecting before Walter did. It was a passion for all of them, and they had the money to do it.
He decided he was going to make a name for himself and a career out of collecting. Walter Chrysler, from the word go, was all over the map.
Everybody who knew him would say he was on the hunt all the time.
He was always buying and selling and buying and selling. He loved to collect when things were not in vogue.
If Impressionism was the popular thing, he might invest in old masters.
He did a lot of bartering, a lot of trading. At one time, Walter owned 168 Picassos, but he used them all as trading material.
And to Walter, that's great. I collected those things, and now I have the money that I'm going to reinvest in something else.
He probably owned every work of art on the East Coast for 15 minutes. At a certain point, he's deciding to build a museum collection.
Most of his family died at an early age. When his little brother, Jack, that he adored, died, Walter kind of felt a sense of urgency about collecting again. He felt he wasn't going to live that long.
He found himself the male standard bearer for the Chrysler name. And right about that time, he opens a museum with the Chrysler name on it in Provincetown. And I think that's exactly what he was looking for. He was looking for legacy. He was looking for name recognition.
The collection was held in an old church. He seemed to be particularly proud of the glass.
The collection was suffering terribly. It wasn't properly air-conditioned, heated, and humidity controlled and all that.
And he stays in Provincetown until 1970, 71, when he begins to search for a bigger museum and a museum willing to change its name, and he finds that in Norfolk.
He looked at a dozen cities to move to, and we were selected for two big reasons, his wife and this building.
Jean Outland was a local girl, came from a prominent family in Norfolk, and she met Walter while he was in the Navy.
Jean, being a Norfolk native, called up the mayor, her high school classmate, and said, "Will you take Walter's collection?"
So I think my grandfather really felt if Norfolk was going to move beyond its World War II image of just kind of a sailor town, it needed to really invest in the cultural aspects. And I think he saw art as a very crucial part of that picture.
Walter and Jean saw Norfolk and the scope going up and all these other projects that really gave a sense of energy and a desire to accept new things and change. And I think that that was really something that they were looking for.
Well, in 1971, a hurricane occurred, an art hurricane. You had thousands, tens of thousands of works of art coming in through a loading dock.
There were 7 Santini Brothers 18-wheelers of art. So much art. And an awful lot of glass.
We bought everything that he had from Provincetown down to from the kitchen sinks to the whatever. It was all here.
So out went the stuffed animals and the whole focus on science and history. It was a kind of cleaning house and a transformation of the museum.
It was kind of rough going at first.
He basically ran the museum.
He was here every day. He lived across the street. He came in and really rearranged things. He put his own things on the wall and would take them off.
Walter would bring things in shopping bags and take things out in shopping bags.
The museum board said, okay, Walter, we have to either be a museum or not be a museum, because he was breaking all the rules.
Things finally settled down in 1980 when David Stedman arrived and did a number of things that allowed Walter to step back. And that's when things became a little less Wild West and a little more standard.
That was the decade where we renovated and added on to this building. And it was huge.
We had 50,000 square feet of new space. That was a tremendous help.
Walter died in September of 1988, and we didn't think he was going to die. So he never saw the museum open in February of 1989, which was so sad for all of us. And to have your major donor and your major force leave just before this opened, it was a feeling that none of us anticipated.
You can hear stories about Walter. He was a character, but at the end of the day, he created something really fantastic that hundreds of thousands of people are enjoying on an annual basis.
And the art's vibrancy here in Norfolk is in large part due to the Glass Studio and the Chrysler. Those things work together. They make a neighborhood.
So exciting to see what's happened in Hampton Roads since 1971.
With the growth of the Arts District, Neon District, public arts is displayed throughout the city. There's a lot of things going on.
When Chrysler bought the collection here, it just was transformational for the whole museum and for the whole city and the whole area.
How many small southern cities get a gift like this? It's remarkable.
It takes a lot to build a museum, but oh boy, once you build a great museum in a city, that's it. It just makes it a place to be.